Good morning. My name is Cathy, a resident of Marina. Many groups and residents of the entire Monterey Bay worked tirelessly to close the CMAX sand mining facility that concluded in July 2017 with a settlement agreement signed by the Coastal Commission, the State Lands Commission, and the City of Marina to transfer the land to public agencies and designate it for conservation in perpetuity. I was very involved in this successful initiative. Why is there placing another industrial facility on a property now dedicated for conservation in perpetuity an acceptable use of the property or in line with our community values? Maintaining and protecting open space has long been a Marina community value. Marina focuses on ecology, conservation, restoration of native plants, celebration of the western snowy plover, sustainability, and now we must defend ourselves against a for-profit private corporation that illegally intrudes on our natural environment to grab our groundwater. The tragedy and the outrage that this is occurring is beyond words. The CPUC proposed decision that resulted in approvals of the FEIR and the CPCN diminished the importance of the legal determination of the CMEX settlement agreeing by stating, and I quote, "As to the CMAX site, even though it will be considered a conservation in the future, any impacts to the site will be minimal and temporary during the construction phase." And yet, in the same breath, the FEIR acknowledges permanent and unmitigable harm to sensitive habitats on the shores of Marina, unquote. The environmental justice principle of access to lower cost recreation opportunities for everyone should include desalination projects because they can cause irreparable harm to the coastal area, sand dunes, and habitat. It was a huge accomplishment in 2017 when the Commission unanimously approved the cease and desist order to finally close the CMAX sand mining plant, and that accomplishment should not be compromised. Please see the CalAm desalination project in terms of the bigger picture of the Coastal Commission mandates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to address you. My name is Chua. I'm a resident of Marina. We in Marina are faced with an existential threat to our sole source of water, the groundwater from the Salinas Valley Basin that has been identified by the State Water Board as one of 21 critically overdrafted basins in California. A CalAm desalination project threatens to extract large amounts of both fresh and brackish water directly from our aquifers. This unthinkable circumstance of a corporation accessing water from a totally different jurisdiction without any valid groundwater rights has been advanced because Marina is a disadvantaged community and as such has not had the political and financial means to effectively challenge this. Compared to CalAm's resources and to the Monterey Peninsula ratepayer customer base, Marina has far greater racial and ethnic diversity, far lower incomes, and has housed regional solid waste sites and regional sewage facilities, and was bypassed in terms of notification of details of this harmful project. We were unable to create a large enough voice from residents preoccupied with daily survival, and we were late to the process by both the city and its citizen group being the last to apply for CPUC status as a party to the proceeding. We have been unable to effectively rally a population with low education levels and an inability to speak and write effectively before formal governmental bodies. Our residents cannot take time off from work to travel to commission meetings. Meanwhile, CalAm, with its full-time employees and abundant resources, had long been intervening at all levels of government and creating allies, and has kept Marina residents largely uninformed of the project's harmful effects. This is the defining nature of what it is to be disadvantaged, with its resulting in environmental injustice. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brian McCarthy, and I am a resident of Marina. The CalAm desalination project may come before this commission in the future. Not only is the project in violation of Marina's local coastal plan, but the project is slated to extract Marina's groundwater without any groundwater rights to do so. CalAm claims they'll be able to obtain appropriative groundwater rights after building the illegal plant and assuming production. The misrepresentation of the California State Water Board's comments on water rights in relation to this project is clarified in a letter dated September 4th, 2018, from State Water Boards to John Edward Forsyth, Senior Environmental Planner, CPUC, Infrastructure Permitting, CEQA section, and I quote, "In order for CalAm to possess appropriative rights to the brackish water under a developed water legal basis, whereby the project essentially creates a new water source, CalAm would need to be able to demonstrate that its extraction and beneficial use of the water source would not injure or harm other legal users of water. There is no permit for appropriative groundwater rights. The project would have to be implemented by CalAm in a manner that meets the requirements for an appropriative groundwater right, including establishing that the project water source is surplus to the needs of the groundwater users in the Salinas Valley groundwater basin, and that operating the project will not injure other lawful users of water," end quote. Monterey County is so concerned about seawater intrusion to the service area that in June of this year, they have adopted an urgency ordinance prohibiting new wells in Monterey County to protect the groundwater in Salinas Valley groundwater basin. Users of water from this basin are actively planning for regional compliance to the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, SGMA, of 2014. CalAm is not part of this basin jurisdiction and has no authority in the context of this new law. SGMA mandates were completely ignored by CPUC in its approvals of the CalAm desalinization project. Allowing an intruder from outside the SGMA-defined groundwater sustainability agencies, or GSAs, of which Marina Coast Water District is one, completely disrupts mandated accountabilities and planning for sustainable groundwater under this new law. We ask the Coastal Commission not ignore the issues of groundwater rights and sustainable groundwater management laws when considering permits for the CalAm Slant Well desalinization project. Thank you for hearing our concerns.
Good morning, Julie Hoffmann, also a Marina resident. A denial of the permits for this project would allow development of a less costly alternative of the expansion of the recycled water project that is a viable alternative and would have support of the peninsula ratepayers, Marina, and the Marina Coast Water District. This would work by controlling costs and avoiding environmental harm. It would be a true regional project as opposed to a water grab by a for-profit corporation owning the technology and infrastructure and levying obscene water rates on its customers. The CPUC, fully aware of this Phase 3 option, failed to give any consideration for the pure water Monterey expansion option that would meet the peninsula water needs for 10+ years. This option would completely avoid enormous harm to our water and avoid untenable future water rates. We ask that the Coastal Commission objectively review the alternatives. The AEM study was also completed by Stanford University with a methodology that generated 3D imaging of 395 flight miles over the Salinas Valley groundwater basin to depths of over 1,000 feet. This AEM study was never allowed to be considered in any of the CPUC approval processes for this project. With the Coastal Commission's emphasis on best practice science, please include the AEM study as your separate and independent analysis of whether harm will be done to the water source of a disadvantaged community. Do not accept the EIR or CPCN, which were based wholly inadequate science, and intentionally refuse to acknowledge of already completed, paid-for, analyzed, state-of-the-art scientific AEM study. The Coastal Commission can and should accept the AEM study in its deliberations. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Like those before me, my name is Lisa Berkley, and I am a resident of Marina. I'd like to point out one example in which environmental injustice is reflected in the governmental decision-making process of the CalAm desalination plant. As can be seen in the charts that I brought here to submit to you, but you have yet to receive, You can see that the western snowy plovers on Marina beaches have experienced severe and statistically significant drops in nests and nest hatches that oddly coincide with the dates of the CalAm test wells slant installation and operation. Clearly, this is something that requires further investigation. In Point Blue's annual reports, they cite the usual predators as explanations for the decline, but they make no mention of the unusual circumstances of an industrial pipe construction and operation which has been made. The health of other adjacent sensitive habitats was cited to minimize the significant declines on Marina's beaches. Also cited was the 2003 target population for plovers on the Monterey Bay, which continues to be met despite continuously increasing trends over many years. At what point does any alarm have to be activated? Does the fact that the EIR predicted up to 2 acres of plover habitat permanent damage, which now that figure has increased, cause alarm? Does the fact that only anecdotal explanations are given to the declines and no serious research is even considered to discover if there's been corresponding uptick in ravens, humans, and dogs that were implicated? Why is there such a concerted effort to avoid these questions? Why even require an EIR for an area directly near an experimental test slant well without thorough investigation? Would it be okay if permanent loss of sensitive habitat were to occur on the peninsula? Would Fish and Wildlife Services or the CPUC or the National Marine Sanctuary allow this? The public uproar and the powerful influence of the hospitality industry would undoubtedly prevent this. But a disadvantaged community such as Marina is expected to have no political support or public voice to stand up for our pristine beaches and our special habitat. Where are Marina's rights to beaches free of industrial plants and access to affordable recreation? Where is there a commitment to allow Marina the same consideration as wealthier neighboring jurisdictions? We hope that the environmental justice policy that you all are working on will address these inequities and help create balanced consideration of all of our community's welfare. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, that's Audra Walton. I'm a resident of Marina. The Coastal Commission is committed to consideration of environmental justice processes during the planning, decision-making, and implementation of Commission actions, programs, policies, and activities. We support the Commission's commitment to environmental justice in the decision-making process, especially as it may relate to the CalAm desalination project. We hope that your commitment extends to communities where coastal development is being proposed by wealthy special interest groups and being imposed upon a community that does not want the development to interfere with their right to enjoy their coastline. Marina is a working community with a 17.1% poverty rate, which is more than double neighboring Monterey at 8%, and triple the rate in Pacific Grove at 6%. And we are much more ethnically diverse, with 62% of our residents from minority backgrounds. Should our city be expected to continue to bear the burden of industrial operations for the benefit of our wealthier neighbors? We are already home to the regional wastewater treatment facility and a regional landfill. What else will be our responsibility when other cities in the peninsula get a pass on hosting all of such operations? Justice should be turned on its head if coastal development was decided on the basis of wealth, political power, and connections of the developer. We ask you to be decisive in righting this imbalance when the CalAm desalination project comes before you for permitting. Thank you.